But we start things out in the NFL with our friend Matt Verderame, who is here, returning champion. SI does a terrific job on the NFL, one of their terrific insiders. Feels like I haven't seen you in a while. I miss that face. I miss this. We're glad to have you back. Let's talk about the trade deadline. As it would be, it started out like a house of fire, and then it kind of fizzled out towards the end, towards the end of the timeline there. I want to get into it on the Jets, and I got to tell you, I love what they did. You suck. Tear the thing down and rebuild it. And frankly, if I'm Aaron Glenn, I'm happy because I get to oversee that rebuild from the start. It buys me time. I know he probably doesn't like giving up Quinn and Williams and Sauce Gardner, but you're not going to win with those guys anyway in this sort of iteration of the Jets. You go get a bunch of draft picks. You could start planning for your future. From the Jets' perspective, we'll get to the Colts and Cowboys. How do you feel about what the Jets did?
I thought the Jets had a rare win in November. I thought the Jets did the best of any team in the trade deadline. Look, they needed to tear everything down, as you said, and rebuild it. And I thought it was interesting. Like, there was this narrative out there, at least in some corners, like, oh, they're a defensive team, and now they've moved on from these guys. Like I saw Diana Rossini she tweeted out something where she had like a text from a source saying that they took a top 5 defense and tore it apart. I'm like, top 5 defense? So I went back and looked. They're 21st in yardage, 27th in points, 30th in DVOA, 26th in EPA, and 27th in dropback in EPA. Other than that, they're great. Look, trade them. Get rid of them. Look, the dirty secret about Sauce Gardner is, quite frankly, he has not been the great all-pro player that he was the first 2 years of his career. I'm not saying he's not very good. He's not been that guy for a little while now. Quinn Williams has 1 sack and 3 quarterback hits this year. That's a half for some guys.
And they got a great haul for him.
So, like, if you're the Jets, you're not trading those 2 guys for 3 firsts and a second? Of course you are. I thought the Jets in both cases came out great. My only criticism of the Jets is I think they should have traded Breece Hall. I think they should have traded some. I know they apparently wanted a 3rd and not a 4th for Hall. I would have just traded him, but that's just me. But I thought, yeah, they came away smelling like a rose.
Matt, you mentioned Breece Hall, and I think the question that came from me in the whole Breece Hall situation was more from a Kansas City side. Is this now a team in Kansas City that's just going to rely on Kareem Hunt and Brashard Smith to run the ball without going out and actually making a move for a running back at the deadline?
Yeah, I mean, they'll have Isaiah Pacheco back for the next game, so that'll be part of it too. They've run the ball fine over the last month. I mean, that really hasn't been there. If the Chiefs are going to do anything, they should have gotten a pass rusher because that's been kind of their Achilles heel. Chris Jones quietly has not been the same player that he's been the rest of his career. He has not played well this year.
Does anybody know why? Does anybody know why that's the case?
He's 31.
I mean, so literally it's just like that. It's gone.
I mean, he's still, like, if you watch him, like, by any other defensive tackles like Matt, he's still a very good player. But by his game he's not wrecking games in the way that he used to. Karlaftis is actually having a terrific season. He's been the best pass rusher they have. The problem is nobody else can do anything. Danis stinks. Amenahu stinks. FAU is a complete bust of a pick. And so you end up with these 2 guys and nobody else. I thought they might go after like Malik Collins or Calais Campbell or Jalen Phillips. They didn't do it. Now, that being said, they're one of the weirdest teams in the league to evaluate because they're 5-4. They just lost a game in Buffalo that they played horrendous in. And then at the same point, they're the favorite in Vegas to win the Super Bowl. Like, I don't know what you do with that team. So I'm not too overstung about the fact they didn't get a running back. I thought, if anything, they should have added to the D line.
How do you feel about what the Cowboys did?
Awful. I mean, I don't understand, like, what the hell the thought process is.
There isn't one.
Well, right. Well, because it's Jerry. And Jerry, at this point in his ownership and life, I don't think has a whole lot of, like, long-range planning. It's just like...
It's like the dog sticking his head out the car window and going, tree, house, cloud, hydrant.
is really like borderline alarming the way that team is run. So you traded Micah Parsons for 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark. Okay, that's a terrible trade, but okay, so now you're in fire sale mode. But they had already, earlier in the offseason, traded a third-round pick for George Pickens, who they haven't extended. Okay. Then they traded for Logan Wilson, who is so bad that the Bengals were giving up 33 points a game. We're like, we don't need this guy. Like, we benched this guy a month ago. So they gave up a pick for him. And then they backed all that up by saying, look, we will not only give you a second rounder in 2026 and a first rounder in 2027 for a guy with 1 sack and 3 quarterback hits who's making a fortune. We'll also give you the better of the first round picks that we have between us and Green Bay. So we'll give you all that. And also, who's playing defensive tackle for this team? So you have Quinn Williams and Kenny Clark. You also have Adigizua, who's arguably the best defensive tackle you have, who's now like, what, a rotational player? It is the weirdest team. I look forward to them giving $40 million a year to George Pickens this offseason. It'd be great. There's just no semblance of a plan for a team that like very clearly just needs to rebuild. They're not good. They have like 4 or 5 really good players. Everybody else on the team is atrocious. Like they just need to rebuild this thing, but they won't because of Jerry Jones.
In the last 30 seconds of this segment, the Jags adding Jacoby Myers move the needle at all?
No. I mean, he's fine. He's a good player. If Brian Thomas doesn't play a lot better, it doesn't really matter. And quite honestly, the real truth of it is, if Trevor Lawrence doesn't play a lot better, it really doesn't matter. And Trevor Lawrence has been awful this year. Under 60% completion rate, 9 TDs to 6 picks. Jacoby Myers is fine. Like, Jacoby Myers doesn't move the needle in New England or the Raiders, and he's not moving it for Jacksonville.
And maybe the upside for the Jags is that the record is what it is without the fact that Trevor Lawrence has played, the way that he has. Maybe that's the upside. We got more with Matt Verderame from SI. Don't go anywhere. Another segment on the NFL. Our friend Matt Verderame from SI joining us on this Wednesday, the day after the trade deadline. Sam, go ahead.
Matt, it seems like the Colts have somehow lucked into having not only the offensive player of the year, but also the rookie of the year and maybe the coach of the year all on the same staff. But they're trusting Daniel Jones under center. It seems like the mass populace has kind of sold themselves down the river on the Colts. Is this a team that you're going to believe in come crunch time in the NFL season?
I believe in certain parts of it. I'm worried about the fact that, look, I mean, that Sauce Gardner trade was not really a trade about Sauce Gardner. That trade was really about Daniel Jones and the fact that they think he's the future, because you don't make that trade if you don't think that. And so, look, I think Daniel Jones, you were getting the best version of him. I don't know that the best version of Daniel Jones is going to lead the league in passing, which is what he's currently doing. I watched the game against Pittsburgh. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be what we should have Daniel Jones the rest of the year either, but he had 5 turnovers in that game. The Steelers' game plan literally was something that I wondered all year long. If you light him up with pressure and you can stop Taylor, what happens? Well, that's what happens. And like that's a problem. Now look, obviously, not everybody's going to be able to stop Jonathan Taylor and then just relentlessly bring blitzing packages. But I was curious, like, if you can get Taylor curtailed on first down and then just blitz him, how does he react? Well, the answer is he throws 3 picks and could have thrown 7 in that game. So I believe in them in the sense Taylor's a great player. I really like Warren. Pittman and Pierce are good receivers. And I'm a big believer in Anarumo defensively. But if you're asking me, do I think in a playoff game, home or away, are they going to beat Mahomes with Daniel Jones or Josh Allen with Daniel Jones? No, I don't think so.
It's been my point.
I still think Kansas City and Buffalo end up in the AFC title game. I think that's where this whole thing's headed. And I think it's going to be like there's a real world that's like a 5 and a 6 seed. And they're just like, that's fine. And just go anyway. I think that's what's going to end up happening.
Who are we sleeping on Seattle, as a Super Bowl contender? Like, who are we sleeping on right now that could wind up coming out of this whole thing, and we're not spending enough time talking about them, Matt?
If Seattle qualifies, I would talk about them. But again, here's the problem. Everybody knows that Seattle's playing really, really well right now. The other problem, I was like, it's Sam Darnold. And I think people just look and like
It's like the Daniel Jones conversation. Then.
Yes. Right or wrong, people look at this and go, I'm sorry, I just can't do it. I cannot get there with this guy. Now, look, every once in a while, you have weird years. 2017, Nick Foles and Case Keenum and Blake Bortles were in the AFC and NFC championship games. Like, it happens. Weird stuff happens. But I always kind of default back to, in January, who's your quarterback and who's your coach? But that's kind of what it's why with Denver, I can't get there with Denver. I just can't. I know they're 7-2. And it's like Denver's defense is awesome, and Sean Payton's a really good coach, and I am not betting on Bo Nix to beat Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. I'm just not. Sorry. He's not going to do it.
Yeah.
Like, he's not good enough. He's not scoring 33 points against the Giants in January. It's just not happening. I would say of all the teams, I think Tampa, if they can get healthy, could be really interesting. Really interesting because they have not been healthy at all. And they're 6-2. But can they get healthy? Can they get healthy? And can that defensive line do enough? They were a team, I thought maybe they had a pass rusher in there. But the NFC is deeper than the AFC, more wide open. I think it's going to be a fascinating playoffs this year.
Yeah, I think it feels like you and I share the same brain on Daniel Jones. I know it's a scary thought. Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold. I don't know about Knicks because the one thing about Knicks is, I was talking about this with Nick Ferguson yesterday on the show. The one thing about Bo Nix is every time they need a big drive late in a game, he comes up with it.
Yeah, it's true and it's fair. I don't know. I just kind of look at Denver as like they're the exact same team they were a year ago, where defensively they're awesome. He's not good. To their credit, you're right. Like in the fourth quarter, he looks like Montana, but they're beating
every time.
Here's my concern about this stuff. They need these massive fourth quarters.
I know where you're going.
Against Jackson Dart and Justin Fields and Davis Mills and Cam Ward. It's like, man, you're barely beating these teams. And by the way, all those games I just mentioned, all of them were home games. Every one of them, except for the Jets game, which was a neutral site game.
Yeah.
Like, it's great you lit up Dallas and Cincinnati. Vanderbilt could light up Dallas and Cincinnati. Like, I don't care. I will say this. Do they play the Raiders this Thursday night? The next week they play Kansas City in Denver. They beat Kansas City. You have my full attention.
Sam, take us home.
Matt, obviously the Chiefs are a team that you're very close to, and we've mentioned them throughout and how they're still Super Bowl favorites. The part about that is, though, they actually have shorter odds to miss the playoffs than they do to win the Super Bowl still. Listen, it's the second time in the Mahomes era they've been 5-4. The last time was coming off of the Super Bowl loss to Tom Brady. How do you think the mentality is in that building right now with regard to where their record sits, looking up at the playoffs more than halfway through the season with 3 must-win games down the line on their schedule?
Oh, in the building, I can guarantee you their thought process is that they don't care, that they'll get in the playoffs, and if they're a 7 seed, that's fine. They'll just plow 3 teams and go to the Super Bowl. Like that's right or wrong. That's how they think. I mean, I think on the outside, like, the loss to Buffalo is just like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Like in that building, I don't want to say they don't care. I mean, they care, but like, they're not going to worry about it. Like I promise you, look at that game. Like, that's fine. If we see them in January, we'll beat them. Like that is maybe they won't, but that's how they'll look at it. They'll switch the game plan up. They'll play completely differently. They'll have a million different plays that nobody's there. That's the thing that's hard to judge with them. Cause I grew up rooting for that team. I have watched them my entire life. And I can tell you, unlike any team I've ever rooted for in any sport, the one thing that is, and really even teams I haven't, like they have like 2 different playbooks. They will sit on 50 to 60 plays all year that they will never use, no matter how dire the situation in a regular season game, and get it. Now, look, a lot of times they can do it because they're the 1 seed, the 2 seed. This is different. I will say this, you look at their schedule. Their next 2 games are at Denver and then home to Indianapolis. Those are hard games. If they win those games, I don't think they're going to lose another game. Their last 6 games are the Titans, the Raiders, the Chargers at home, the Texans at home, Denver at home, and the Cowboys. Like, I don't think they'll lose. Look, those two games out of the bye are real tough. if they win those 2 games, I don't think they'll lose another game. I think they'll be 13-4.
Matt Verderame does a terrific job over at SI. Check out his work there. Always appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for hanging out with us. Hopefully we get to do it again sometime soon.
No problem, anytime.
All right, we got Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com coming up in 10 minutes. A couple of segments on the NBA, as we do on Wednesdays, including some thoughts on the Thunder, who continue to rumble. Huh? You like that? I'll be here all week. All right, Sam Yarnell. First college football playoff rankings came out on Tuesday night. I was sitting here, all excited at the control station here, getting ready to talk about it, and then they came out, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that kind of makes sense." That's kind of where I was by the time I was done with it. You know, Ohio State, Alabama, Texas A&M, Indiana, you're 1 through 4, okay. And then the rest of it comes out. No, Notre Dame's in. Oh, of course, because it's Notre Dame. And, you know, you sort of weed your way through it. It seemed to me like there was a lot more going on here from an eyeballs standpoint, from an eyeball test, an eye test standpoint, than there was analytics and head-to-heads and all of this. And if that's the trend, if that's the through line here, then, you know, how these teams finish could be a lot more important than anything they've really done to this point in the season.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The first college football rankings are always the weirdest ones, right? Those are always the ones that you have to take with the most grain of salt. Maybe it's because all these, you know, geriatric people have just come out of hibernation. You know, they just hung their hat on the flagpole there and walked in, and they're all still waking up, still familiarizing themselves with everything they missed over the first 10 weeks of the college football season. But I think that it became very clear and obvious to everybody, if it wasn't already, that 2-loss Notre Dame is in the playoff. They're already in. They don't need another win. They're going to make the playoff. It's because they're Notre Dame and they're independent, and just because they get to do whatever they want, they don't get classed in with the rest of the ACC like they should be. But regardless, besides Notre Dame making the playoff, I did think it was very weird how they handled the rankings in week 1, not putting a single G5 team anywhere in the rankings. Like normally, historically, they'll, even for week 1, throw them down at the bottom because there has to be one in the college football playoff. Instead, they have unranked Memphis in the college football playoff. That didn't really make a lot of sense to me, but regardless, that's a very nuanced little thing. Memphis, obviously the choice right now. Their game against Tulane on Friday is massive, maybe the game of the G5 season, and I don't think that Memphis is going to be the ultimate G5 bid. I mean, we've talked with Bill Bender about this throughout the last couple of weeks on this show. I think South Florida probably has the greatest chance in the American, but I think James Madison probably has the best chance of anybody in the country just because of the carnage that is the American. Jason, this is the first week in a 6-week stretch of us just going through the craziest debates every single Wednesday morning. I can't say I'm excited for it based off of night 1.
Pittsburgh is an interesting one to me. Even though they're at 24, they've got the biggest potential upside to improve from 24. That's the one that I'm curious about. We talked about them a little bit on the show with Bill as well on Monday. Pittsburgh is an interesting one to me. I think Utah was also kind of interesting. You know, where Utah lands in this at 13. You know, that Utah could still potentially be a team that winds up in this playoff. Oregon, you know, the schedule for Oregon, you kind of go, you know, that's an interesting one. And like I said, this thing is going to have to shake itself out, and more times than not, it will. And again, even though it's a 12 team or, you know, however many teams you have in here, 8 teams in here, you know, as much as we sit here and talk about the different addition of teams and putting all these teams in. At the end of this, you're still going to have arguments about who should be 11, who should be 12, who could have got in, who should have got in. No matter how many teams you add to this, even in the NCAA men's basketball tournament, you could have 128 teams, and somebody's going to have a gripe about who should have been team 127 and team 128. No matter what this committee does, by the time we get to the end of this process, there's going to be somebody who's unhappy and somebody that feels like they got shafted. Every time. Without fail.
Yeah, and almost all the time it's going to be somebody from the SEC, probably the conference as a whole, because there is an argument that you could make that this should just be the SEC conference tournament every year, but that also isn't part of what makes college football so fun and exciting. And I think secretly behind closed doors, one of the things that the higher ups in this college football world that we live in think to themselves is, yeah, man, let's let the committee be a little explosive. Let's let them be a little uneducated on things. Because you know what it's going to do? It's going to make people talk about college football from Monday all the way to Sunday. That's all it's going to do for college football. So I think they're secretly pretty happy with how this whole process has turned into what it has worked out to be. But, the gripes that the SEC has year in, year out, I don't think they're unfair. At the end of the day, the solution is, right, have something more basketball oriented, which is just not plausible because of the nature of the sport of football. I don't know what the ultimate answer is. You thought that there would be so much clarity and so much acceptance, like you mentioned, when we moved from 4 to 12 teams, but it seems like the controversy has done nothing but double.
The one thing that does interest me, not that it's a guarantee that this is the way the bracket shakes down, the way it looks obviously in week 1. We could get a Notre Dame Indiana rematch. That kind of excites me. The idea of a Notre Dame rematch with Indiana, with what we saw in that game last year, would be kind of interesting to me. The other one that's interesting, Oregon and Texas Tech. That would be a fun game to watch in the playoffs. I'll sign me up for Oregon and Texas Tech for 4 quarters. What were you going to say?
I was hopeful that, should JMU be the G5 team, we're obviously past this point now, but I was hoping that Indiana would slip up one more time so that they'd get an at-large bid, and we could potentially get Kurt Signetti against his former school in Indiana in the first round of the college football playoff. That would have been poetry.
Yes, it would. And sports can often work out that way, just not this time around. All right, we got a lot more to do on the show. Some NBA to talk about. Will the Thunder ever lose? I don't know. They don't look like a team that's going to lose, and they're missing their second best player or third best player. Kurt Helin's next. Well, if it's a Wednesday on SportsWrap, that can only mean one thing. It means this guy is here, Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. We really need that thing. I think we should introduce you with that music in the background. Every week, absolutely.
The music catches on. Look, I was at Clippers Thunder last night, and Chuck the Condor had the Josh Hart wig, not Josh Hart, John Tesh wig on, and just was trying to be John Tesh for a while. So,
all right, fair enough. We might have to make that change for next week. I don't think NBC would be mad at us if we did.
He still holds the rights to it. I will tell you.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com hanging out with us on the show. So I want to ask you about the Thunder. You were there last night. They are the only unbeaten remaining now in the NBA at 8-0, and I am really struck by the way they have come out without J-Dub, without Jalen Williams out there and doing what they've done. I am fascinated. We often hear the talk about culture in sports and culture this and culture that. It really does feel like with them having gotten all these guys at a young age and building that culture, Mark Dagno, that they have built something here that is really everlasting and not dynastic in the way we think about the Bulls or anything like that. That was because the Bulls were dysfunctional dynastic. The Spurs is more the comparison I think of when I think of the potential for dynasty here and what we're seeing, Kurt.
And they're just getting better. Mark Dagnall talked about going into the season, and their attitude was, let's treat this season like we lost Game 7 to the Denver in the second round. If we lost that game, how would we approach? What would we do differently? What would we want? And that absolutely comes through. And also the thing you mentioned about chemistry comes through. If you go to NBC, little plug, if you go to NBC Sports today, I have a feature up on AJ Mitchell, who is, a fascinating story from Belgium to Santa Barbara to the NBA. But he talked about coming in at, 21, 22, 21 when he was drafted after 3 years of college. It's like everybody was my age. We all get along. We all hang out. We like this team. It is much more collegial than most teams. And you can feel that on the court. You can see that vibe on the court where these guys just like each other and they also just know each other and they know each other's game.
Who's the team that, I know it's early in the year, who's the one team, if I can give you one matchup, that you want to see how a team matches up with them? Is it the Spurs?
The Spurs will be fascinating just because Wemby changes everything.
He's
on the
such
court
a disruptor on both ends. Yeah.
Right. But they're still figuring out the chemistry that Oklahoma City has, right? And so there's that. Obviously, Denver is the team I think long-term that is their biggest threat, but Denver hasn't quite, the numbers are really good. They're just not racking up wins, but I think they'll find their stride. And then who's going to come out of the East? I'm still not sure about that.
Kurt, between the Cavaliers last year, who started the season 15-0, and this team in the Thunder this year, who've started 8-0 and obviously look great, do you think that there's something to the NBA being built for these great teams to start out in these incredible unbeaten streaks and then fall back to level as the season goes on?
Well, first off, both Cleveland won 64 games last year. Their level was pretty high. They just injuries and everything caught up with them in the playoffs. But I think there might be something to that. It's an interesting theory, but I think you can, for a team that knows who it is, which Oklahoma City absolutely knows who it is, a team with an identity, that really seems to matter early in the season. You talk about the Chicago Bulls, and we can talk about them, and man, is Josh Giddey really this good? And they're defending way over their head, and they know who they are. They know how they want to play. They know what they want to be. And knowing that seems to have been a huge, huge step in the right direction early on.
You mentioned the Clippers because you were there last night. And it was funny, you made the joke that, hey, you were there to watch the Thunder and the Clippers happened to be there too. And by the time they got to the fourth quarter of that game, that's sort of the way it felt. What do you see in the Clippers that gives you an indication one way or another, at least through the first 7 games, the direction that team is headed?
They're concerning, and well, obviously no Kawhi Leonard last night, and they're just not the same team without him. They really need his shot creation. James Harden, 17 points in the first quarter, 12 in the first, 3 minutes or something, just red hot start. And when he's like that, it propels them. But against a good defensive team, they kept the Thunder just roll out waves of guys. It's really the problem. It's like,
they're going to play 12. They're talking about playing 12 guys tonight in Portland.
And they very well might. And but they roll 8. You had enough of Casey Wallace to start the game. Here's some Alex Caruso. We can just throw guys at you all night. It wore Harden down enough, and they start picking him up full court, which is if you're looking for an early season NBA trend, friends, full court pressure. Everybody's doing it now. Everybody's copying Indiana last year. They wear him down. The Clippers don't have anywhere else to go. And I'll tell you, the thing that does stand out to me, we're going into the season, we're like, all this maturity, all this depth, all this veteran presence, kind of slow, kind of old and kind of slow. And it's catching them early, but I really think they'll settle down and win a lot of games, but I think it's really going to catch them late.
In the last 30 seconds, for something that's way more complicated than 30 seconds, this aspiration stuff with now you've got people suing Steve Ballmer.
Yeah.
How close an eye is the NBA keeping on this, and how does it add to the story?
I don't think it helps the situation. You know when you're going to hear it a lot, though? They're going to try to have the All-Star game there. They are very pumped about having the All-Star game at Intuit Dome, and that is just going to come up a lot. And the league, I can guarantee you, there's 0.0 chance, Jason, that investigation is wrapped up before the All-Star game in Los Angeles.
Kurt Helin, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. Another segment with him on the other side. Don't go anywhere. Conversation on the NBA continues, and so does our friend Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. Kurt, the Ja Morant situation in Memphis, suspended for a game. Obviously, all the signs are there of a divorce between these two sides. Is it just a matter of when and not if?
Probably. They're going to probably play the. I mean, right now they couldn't trade him if they wanted to. There's no real market for him. So they're going to have to ride this out for a while. They're going to have to find a way to get his trade value up if they even want to go that route. And I'm not totally sure they are. Like, this is still very early in the season, and that's not on paper, not a bad team. They think they should be better than they are. The problem they're going to run into is, I talked with people around the league, and there's just nobody really wants to bring him in right now. Certainly, it's not even that his contract's that bad, but Jason, Sam, you guys have watched him. He's not as explosive. He's simply not the guy he was 3-5 years ago when he Look, he was must watch.
But is that because of the team he's on in the situation?
The question is, are you going to get somebody to buy that? Because he's just not getting by guys, right? And I want to see what Memphis looks like when they get Zach Edey back really soon. But more importantly, they really miss Scottie Pippen Jr. and Ty Jerome, shooters and defenders and floor spacers. They'll look better once everybody's there. But he's not blowing by guys, and everybody's noticing. And that's like, if he's not, for a game based heavily on his athleticism, it's raised eyebrows. And there's a reason that when you talk to people around the league, everybody I talked to said, no, I don't think there's any interest. There's no market for him. And then the rumor comes out, the Kings are interested. And I'm like, well, of course, the most dysfunctional franchise in the league is interested. But I'm not sure there's any market. They're not going to get anything close to what they think they should get for him.
Kurt, a player that everybody wanted to bring into their locker room this offseason was Cooper Flagg. The Dallas Mavericks were obviously lucky enough to do so, but he's looked a little bit lackluster to start his NBA career. From what you're hearing, do people think it's just going to be a matter of time and he will eventually be everything that he's expected to be? Or is there concern that maybe we were sold a bad bill of goods here?
No, it's situational. Look, first off, he's because of his fame, because of how well he's played, he's at the top of scouting reports. So have fun with that, rookie. But the bigger issue to me is they're just playing him out of position. He's a 6'9",
yes,
do everything wing, and they've got him playing point guard, and it's just, that's not going to be his role.
But
that's
why are they setting him up for failure that way? I know they need a guard, but it can't be him.
They do. I think there was hey, we'll take the hits with the learning curve kind of thing going on there. Like, eventually they get Kyrie Irving back and then they settle him into his position, and now he's got all these ball handling skills. But he's taken some blows, and he's hit a very steep learning curve because of how he's being used, as opposed to what Philadelphia is doing with VJ Edgecombe. We're just going to put you in the best possible situation to play to your strengths and go out there. And I mean, it's not just a basketball thing. I mean, what did Bill Belichick do well for the Patriots? What are the best coaches in every sport do? They put players playing to their strength and keep them in their lane, and that's not what's happened in Dallas.
A thought on Zion Williamson and this Pelicans team, which has been a disaster to start the season. They're 1-6. A hamstring injury, and look, we can't say he's not in shape. He came into the season in shape, so now he's dealing with this hamstring injury. How long is it before we start seeing them go into sort of fire sale mode, or will they just wait as long as possible?
I'm really curious to see if they start trying to. There's not going to be a market for Zion at the trade deadline, but Trey Murphy in a different position and other players on that roster. Herb Jones has a lot of fans around the league. There's a lot of people who would be interested. I'm curious where they go, but Zion's Zion's only out theoretically 10 days. This is a mild strain, but it's Zion.
With him, that could be 10 weeks.
By the way, do you feel like the PR staff in New Orleans, they already have a pre-written thing with like pull down menus? They're like, Zion Williams is out, and then you just pull down
It's
menu.
like Mad Libs. It's like Mad Libs. You just fill in the blank. Yeah, there's something to be said for that. Go ahead, Sam.
Kurt, the team that has surprised me maybe the most, and that may just be because I don't see anything coming, it's the Detroit Pistons. They're playing so well, and it seems like Tobias Harris maybe finally figured something out again, maybe, unless he's just going to hurt another franchise, which could also be very possible. But what have you seen from Detroit so far early this season?
A step forward from where they were last year, and I wasn't sure that would happen, honestly. I thought they'd plateau a little bit. Tobias Harris has been great. Cade Cunningham, I knew Cade Cunningham would be fine, but the way Jalen Duren is playing right now has been absolutely fantastic. They have just kind of found a formula that works for them. And like I said, I kind of expected a plateau, and they haven't been that. They have been better. And in a down East, that could put them up really high. Like they are a good team with, like we talked about last segment, with an identity. They kind of know who they are and how they want to play. And the fact that you have an all-NBA point guard at the top of the play with the ball in his hands just changes everything. They've been fantastic. Then, like you said, they've been better than I expected. I thought they'd be good, not great, and they have been really good.
One more in the East in the last 30 seconds. Bulls at 6-1, Sixers at 5-2. Which is a bigger surprise to you?
Both are surprises, but definitely the Bulls. They're defending. I keep saying that's not going to last if they keep doing it. The other thing is, what was the knock on Josh Giddey? That man can't drive winning. He's just empty stats. Well, he's driving winning, Jason. Like, he's driving winning, and maybe we were wrong. Maybe this guy's better than we thought.
Kurt Helin, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. Check out his work there. That's his jam. I always appreciate you, my friend. You're going to be out here in Vegas anytime soon? NBA Cup? What?
Possibly for NBA Cup. That is still up in the air. So if so, we'll get together. This time I will buy you dinner at, any $2 pizza joint you want.
There's plenty of them here in Vegas. We're coming back. Just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Wednesday. But before we do, a couple of reminders. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to subscribe to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast. It's available on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon. Anywhere you get a podcast, you can get this show. Just the audio, Monday through Friday. 45 minutes, it's perfect while you're driving to work, on the treadmill, in the shower, laying in bed, whatever works for you. You can check it out there. In addition to being on over 270 affiliates around the U.S. and Canada, hello, Canada, we're also available on the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel has the show commercial-free Monday through Friday, and oftentimes it's there before it's even available on television. Little pro tip for those of you at home. We also have Sports Wrap Shorts available on our YouTube channel. They are the rage. They are awesome. Anytime news breaks, anytime a story breaks, if we can't be on here talking about it, we're on there talking about it on the YouTube channel, the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Sports Wrap Shorts are also available over on TikTok, Sports Wrap Jason Page. On Instagram, Sports Wrap Jason Page. Easy to remember. And without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, not the end for Salvador Perez, who continues to go strong. One of the good guys in baseball. I know this is people say this is a throwaway story in our industry. It's a bumper story. You use it going to break. No. Salvador Perez deserves more than that. The World Series winning catcher for the Kansas City Royals gets a 2-year extension to continue playing in Kansas City. Good for him. He should be a lifelong Royal, Sam.
Hall of Famer?
So as I was waxing poetic about him, I literally was asking myself that same question.
I think he might be. He set the record for catcher home runs in a season. He won a World Series, been to a couple. Yeah. Yes, throw Salvador Perez in the Hall of Famer. He's a catcher, and he's a darn good catcher, too. One of the better defensive catchers that you'll ever see, right up there with Yadi Molina.
Career numbers, 264, 1,700 hits. I mean, yeah, he went 30 and 100 this year. Talk about the quietest 30 and 100. 30 and 100 you didn't even hear about.
How many All-Stars for Salvador
He only hit
Perez?
236 this year. I don't know that offhand, but for his career, 300 home runs, 1,000 RBIs. I mean, he has been a stalwart for that. Wow, he's coming into like his 15th season already, too.
5-time Gold Glove, 9-time All-Star. Guys won a World Series MVP.
He might be one of those guys that slips through the cracks, though. You know what I mean?
That'd be a darn shame. That'd be a darn shame.
I agree.
I understand it from a WAR perspective. I get it. But you think about what that guy did for so many incredibly important Royals teams, but also just the organization on the whole. That's a guy who deserves to get into the Hall of Fame for more than just his numbers.
Boom! There it is. Career home run number 300. You're watching it on the screen with us. I don't know why I decided to show you the whole at bat, but there it is. 300 career home runs for Salvador Perez. And again, one of the good guys in baseball. Sam, LIV Golf can no longer be called LIV Golf. Because they've decided to go to 72 holes, and LIV stands for 54. Does that mean they're like LXXII now? Like what do you do with the name of LIV Golf when they decide to go to 72 holes? The reason they're going to 72 holes, by the way, they're trying to get recognized by the World Golf Rankings. They are trying like crazy. And to the point that they've literally just destroyed the name of this is LIV Golf, which everybody wondered why they named it that, and then they said, oh, LIV, it means 54. And now they've decided to go to 72 holes. Next, they're going to ban shorts? Like, what? I mean, what are we doing here? What are we doing here, Sam?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, Jason, and I stay pretty in tune with the sports world generally. I forgot LIV Golf existed until we did this story. They have become so irrelevant in the golf world that it's just a real shame that so many guys ruined their careers by going there. That's what it is.
They just can't gain traction. Like when I have to tell you, as much as I had issues with the whole involvement with the Saudi PIF and everything, when I turn it on and watch it, it's golf. It's real golf. But it doesn't make it into my brain to watch it. They're playing at all different times because they're playing all over the world. When they play in the U.S., I've watched it. It's good golf. My buddy Scott O'Neill's over there as the CEO, trying to do everything he can with it, including making it a 72-hole event instead of 54. Good luck. I mean, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And guys are re-signing to stay there. It's not like guys are leaving at the end of their contracts. Guys are staying. So, okay.
It's tough. I think it is a sight to behold that the PGA Tour absolutely wiped the floor with them the way that they did.
We all thought it was, remember, a lot of people thought the end of the PGA Tour.
Yep.
And just goes to show you how strong a position the PGA Tour was really all along. Everybody thought, the PGA Tour doesn't have the money to compete with the Saudis, and PIF ain't giving up without a fight, though. They'll keep dumping that oil money into it. Them and Jerry Jones. Oh, no, Jerry Jones wants natural gas, right? He's going for gas. Oh, we're out of time? Thanks, Kurt Helin, Matt Verderame, you, Sam. We'll see you all back here tomorrow for more Sports Wrap. Hi there. I'm Jason Page. You like what you're watching? Subscribe. We've got Sports Wrap shorts on this channel. We've got the show. We've got clips from the show. What else do you have to do? You probably follow a lot of other things that aren't half as they're not half as exciting as this show is. So what are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button, follow the channel, watch the content. Bye.